My name is Vandana Techie, and I'm a second-year undergrad student at UCSC, and I will be conducting this interview today. Humans of Neuroscience is a Simply Neuroscience outreach initiative dedicated to sharing the stories of humans in neuroscience and psychology of all ages and educational backgrounds to showcase amazing diversity in this field. On behalf of the entire HON team, I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Jourdan Reyes.
Good morning, Freya, and good morning to everyone from Simply Neuroscience, and thank you for having me. My name is Jourdan Reyes. I'm a neurogeneticist by training. What I do is to discover genes responsible for neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's disease, ALS, and Alzheimer's disease. So I just graduated from my PhD program in biomedicine at the University of Lubeck in Germany. And then in September, I'll be starting as a postdoctoral research fellow at the Collaborative Center for X-linked Dystonia Parkinsonism, Department of Neurology, Harvard Medical School, and Massachusetts General Hospital.
Can you tell me about yourself and your work in neuroscience, like your specialty in neuroscience?
Right now, I'm studying a rare brain disorder called X-linked Dystonia Parkinsonism. And it's rare because it's only found in Filipino individuals who trace their maternal ancestry from my father's hometown, which is the Panay Island of the Philippines. So as part of my PhD, I was part of an effort to understand the genetics of this disorder. And what we found is that there's an unstable stretch of repetitive sequence inside a transposable element inserted in the TAF1 gene. So that makes this brain disorder similar to more common neurological disorders such as Huntington's disease, the most common form of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis and frontotemporal, heritable form of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis and frontotemporal dementia, and also other like repeat expansion disorders like spinocerebellar ataxias. What this gives us is a perspective on how to tackle the disease long term, because mechanistic studies and therapeutic strategies have been devised for this group of diseases. And we're continuing that effort in order to one day give a cure for this seemingly incurable disease.
Thank you. That was very detailed. Tell us about your brain journey. Like, when did you begin developing an interest in neurology and the brain in general? And like, what steps did you take to get to where you are now?
I think my neuroscience journey started in high school when one of my father's closest cousins got diagnosed with XDP. So it's the same brain disorder that I mentioned earlier. And when one of my uncles got diagnosed, the doctor said that it was heritable, that it runs in the family, and it's also incurable. So imagine the horror and the devastation that it caused our family at that time. And while I was in high school, I was also competing for a lot of biology contests. So I thought, as a person studying biology and very much passionate about the field, what can I do to at least contribute to the search for a cure? So back then, I thought that it would be best to pursue an education that will allow me to contribute to the science. And that's what I did. So when I went to college, I studied biology at the Ateneo de Manila University. And we were given 8 electives. So I focused on genetics and molecular biology in order for me to have the fundamental set of skills needed to ask questions and to answer them in molecular biology. Then I pursued a graduate scholarship in Japan through the Japanese government scholarship. I went to Osaka University and studied RNA biology and neuroscience for my master's. There, I worked on animal models of motor neuron disease and studied how certain genetic mutations in humans can trigger the same disease in mice. And then when I found out that a German laboratory in Lubeck was studying the disease I was interested in, so they set up a collaboration with our Movement Disorder Society of the Philippines. And then there was an exchange of biomaterials, patient data, and there was really a strong collaboration between Filipinos and German scientists and clinicians. So I wrote to them, I applied for a PhD program, and I was accepted. And then 4 years later, here I am. I'm finished with my PhD and continuing to work on this unique brain disorder. So it started there. It started with very personal reasons and a desire to help my family and my country to solve this mystery.
Great story. Amazing. Thank you. Why did you choose neuroscience as a field of study?
Although I started with very personal reasons on how to tackle this disease, neuroscience is a very dynamic field as well. You realize that when you're in the field, dogma shattering discoveries are being made year after year. And as a graduate student and as an early career scientist, that gives you a lot of excitement and energizes you to go out of bed every day. I'll just give you an example. So you're familiar with gene structure and how certain parts of the genome are protein coding and some of them are non-coding, right? So before, probably 10 years ago, scientists thought that the non-coding repeat expansions that cause disease only cause neurodegeneration by RNA-mediated toxicity. So it's the RNA transcript that's causing damage to the human body. But then, like in a crazy set of experiments, Laura Ranum's group based at the University of Florida showed that these non-coding repeat expansions are actually translated into proteins. So imagine that. What's supposed to be junk is doing something toxic that we would have otherwise not imagined. As a young scientist, that really, really, really enthralls me to go to the lab and like look at things with a fresh perspective because science is really amazing.
So, what do you believe is the biggest misconception people have about you or neuroscience?
As a geneticist working on the nervous system, I often hear people claiming that our genes are everything, that we cannot escape our genetics, and it determines a lot about who we are. And to some extent, that's true. But on the other hand, there's also a lot of things we can do to influence our genetics and really become like the best person we can be. So from my perspective, humans are also great adaptation machines. We can take on challenges, we can adapt to challenges, and make ourselves better through the process. So I think that's also the same reason why you have a lot of people doing yoga, meditation, having healthy diets. It's not just because we are like products of our own genes, we're also products of our choices. And that's very important.
How do you feel your high school experience prepared you for the challenging career you are in now? What advice would you give to high school students considering neuroscience?
When I was in high school, I had the privilege of training Dr. Arturo Tolentino. So he was my biology teacher, he was my mentor, and he was really hard on not just me, but also to all of his students. So he treated us like mature undergraduate or medical students. He would give us a lot of readings. He would expect us to be independent and to ask really interesting questions. So that level of rigor contributed to like our work ethic as professionals later on. And I think it's also the science high school systems in the Philippines. So I graduated from Caloocan City Science High School, which is a public science high school. And people really appreciate that the public science high school systems put a lot of effort in shaping how young people should think scientifically. So again, that level of rigor and adversity at a very early stage in our academic development was really instrumental in developing how we think and how we work. So my advice for young people is to just enjoy the moment, fully immerse yourself in your high school education. If you're taking up biology courses or physics courses, take advantage of the time that you have to really understand the concepts. Read books, watch videos, ask a lot of questions, perform experiments in the lab, and make sure that once you develop these fundamental skills that you have, you later on get to exercise them at an elite level. So it's just a matter of immersion, practice, and looking for better opportunities.
I would have been grateful for that advice. Yeah. You've won a lot of awards in the past for variety of leadership and creativity positions. Can you tell us a little bit more about these accomplishments and how you went about taking on new challenges?
In 2013, I was selected as one of two Filipino representatives to the Novartis Biotechnology a leadership camp in Basel, Switzerland. It was a very competitive process. So 51 applicants applied and only two were selected to go to Switzerland. So in 2016, I was selected as one of 100 leaders of tomorrow for Global Biotechnology Revolution's GAP Summit held at the University of Cambridge in the United Kingdom. And these are conferences or summits where people discuss issues not just related to the technical aspect of biotechnology, but also the education aspect. So are we really communicating our science well to the public? Are we violating ethical considerations and bigger picture aspects of science? So it was foreign territory for me because as an undergraduate and as a young master's student at that time, people were just talking about how to do experiments, fundamental concepts in science. And I had to look at the qualifications of people who were selected for these programs. What do they have? What are their credentials? And I tried to reverse engineer their credentials. It's like, if I want to become a person like that, what would I need to develop in order for me to reach that point in my career? So it required a lot of practice. For one, because it was also a business proposal competition, I watched a lot of videos of CEOs pitching their products or like certain pitches in Shark Tank. So for me, it was a good opportunity to learn about the bigger picture of things, but at the same time, it was also an opportunity for me to go out of my comfort zone and to develop my professional skills. And that involves reading papers, identifying gaps, knowing how to present your product or your idea well to the public, and coordinating with groups who already have expertise on certain aspects of the product you want to develop. So it was a truly enriching experience, and I highly recommend it to everyone interested. I think GAP Summit is still ongoing. So if you have the chance to look it up and apply to be a leader of tomorrow, please do so because it's really an amazing experience.
After completing your bachelor's, you received two masters before pursuing your PhD. Do you believe these degrees helped you prepare for your PhD? Or would you recommend students to pursue master's degrees before PhDs?
Nice question. But just a small clarification. So I enrolled in two master's programs. The first one is a molecular biology program in the Philippines. And I did that just to fulfill the qualifications needed to pursue a master's degree in Japan. So I only finished one master's degree, and it's the Master of Medical Science degree from Osaka University. But to answer your question, I really recommend people to consider getting a master's degree first and test the waters before you jump into a PhD program. Because a PhD program is a long-term commitment. Imagine you'll be devoting 5 years of your life to a certain scientific project, and that project will require you to work 12 hours a day, be away from family, sometimes sacrifice your weekends and all the fun things you're thinking of just to make sure that a project goes well. So imagine the time it takes to finish a PhD and all the sacrifices you need to make for you to finish that degree. It's a lot. So what a master's degree provides you is the experience and the maturity needed to go through that program as a person with like a better perspective on how to handle things. And by the time you start a PhD program, if you already have a master's degree, you would know how to dissect literature, to set experimental objectives, and to implement an experimental strategy. You are more resilient to failure. So when your experiments go wrong, you don't just panic. You already know how to carry yourself and to adjust to the situation. So it's something that gives you more confidence relative to younger people who just go to the PhD program without any experience. So I recommend it to young people so that when they go to PhD programs, they are more aware of what they're getting into.
Thank you. That was a very detailed and thorough explanation of all the questions I have. Yeah, thank you so much for the time and your effort and work you've put into neuroscience. I think it's amazing that you've taken the time to really help bring out more to this field of study and bring in more knowledge and fresh perspectives to certain areas of science. I think it's amazing.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Yeah, thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you.